The snow continues here across Utah with heavier snowfall on the way. Coming up, I'll let you know how much snow you can expect the next few days and also your best windows for travel.
Are these recent snowstorms even making a difference in our drought levels? I'm Aaron Cox and I spoke with someone who has the answer.
The name of the game is raising money for these victims, and the more the better.
A local attorney who spent years stealing millions of dollars from his clients had his stuff auctioned off today. We'll explain how much that'll do to help victims and how a local nonprofit plans to make good use of his mansion.
Omicron's like nothing we've seen before.
And a record new high in COVID cases across the country, with Utah contributing a huge total. What doctors in the Beehive State are saying about this uptick.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
First on Fox 13, we continue to track another winter storm happening in northern Utah. This is a live look at I-15 near North Ogden. Pretty dark out there, but you can see there is snow falling, and there's more on the way. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Adam Herbetz, in for Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. Let's get right to Utah's Weather Authority, Allison Krogan, with the timing of all that snow.
Yes, tonight our snow is coming down mostly for the northern Wasatch Front from about Layton further north. Already seeing accumulating snowfall up in Weber and Davis counties. So here's what we have going on right now. Our heaviest snowfall is basically from about Hill Air Force Base up through South Willard. That camera that you saw was near North Ogden on the way to South Willard at SR 126. Up towards Logan, we've also had accumulating snowfall in the form of a few inches of snow. For the Ogden Valley, I'm seeing reports of 5 to 6 inches of snow so far. Looks like we've got a little bit less coming down for the Wasatch Mountains right now near Parley's Canyon and the Cottonwood Canyons. But Cottonwoods tonight, Little Cottonwood had a white knuckle drive. Now we're going to continue with areas of snowfall even across southern Utah through tonight. Where we see that snow coming down right now is basically Hurricane up through about Bryan Head over towards Orderville. Now we look at visibility. It's fairly low right now up towards Logan down to a mile, 2 miles for Brigham City, and for Heber this evening 5 miles, and down towards Manti 4 miles. Very gusty out there as well. So we have gusty conditions, cold temperatures, and a lot more snow in the way, especially tomorrow night. Coming up, I'll let you know your best times for travel for New Year's weekend.
You got it. Thank you, Allison. There is a lot at stake with these winter storms. For example, scientists and farmers need to know how much the snowpack impacts our groundwater and soil moisture.
Yeah, they need to plan for the future. Fox 13's Aaron Cox shows us how far we still have to go and what we could expect for the coming year.
Up along the foothills overlooking Davis County are where some of Utah's recharge areas are found.
Where there's a lot of gravelly material, a lot of sand, and that's where the interface is between the surface water and the deep aquifers.
It's the deep aquifers, or underground reservoirs of sorts, that had water conservationists like Scott Paxman nervous this year.
We hadn't seen this type of drought for 75 to 100 years. So it's nothing that we would have expected, and I definitely hope we don't get another one in a row.
The drought caused deep aquifers to run dry, meaning when our reservoirs above ground had short supplies, there was no backup under the ground. It's why the latest string of snowstorms has been encouraging.
We want those aquifers to be recharged as well. So all of that will help in the long run as far as the soil moisture, the snowpack.
The snowpack we have going on right here is really good, and in the backcountry, it's even better. But Paxton says we need more snowstorms upon snowstorms to really make a difference. He says it could take years to really get us out of this drought.
It usually takes 1 to 2 years of really good water runoff to get those aquifers back up to where they were a couple of years ago. So it takes time for that water to travel through all those soils.
The snow along the valley floor is good for the Great Salt Lake, but for replenishing Utah's water supply, Paxman says we need to set our sights higher.
In the Uintas, around Park City, that is our snowpack. up there.
Snowpack levels are at 89% right now, which is good. But Paxman says the levels we need to see should be closer to 150%.
It's a lifeblood of the country and lifeblood of Utah for sure.
In Davis County, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thank you, Aaron. Paxman says reservoir levels are currently at 35% of normal, and we need those levels to be at about 50% of normal just to get through 1 year.
Tonight, we're learning about 2 skiers who got rescued after dropping off the wrong side of the mountain at Brighton Ski Resort last night. Wasatch County Search and Rescue received a call yesterday afternoon for 2 overdue skiers near Snake Creek. Now, that's an area crews see as very dangerous terrain when it comes to avalanches. They were able to get in touch with those missing skiers and were able to rescue them safely. Today, the state health department reports 7 more Utahns have died from COVID-19 and 3,303 more people have tested positive for the virus.
While hospital capacity doesn't seem to be a big concern right now, as Fox 13's Emily Tenser reports, they worry that's going to change soon.
Utah is heading toward the new year in an upward trend, with Wednesday marking the highest total of daily COVID-19 cases since January.
Clearly, this infection is coming fast and hard at us, and we've got to be prepared.
Dr. Russell Vinnick with the University of Utah Health says this uptick is because of 2 reasons: holiday gatherings and the more contagious Omicron variant.
In our testing centers last Monday, throughout our testing centers, we saw 33 positive cases. This Monday, we saw 135 positive cases.
As of right now, at least hospitalizations are not as high as they were at the start of 2021. However, Dr. Vinnick fears it's only a matter of time.
Even though the Omicron does not appear to cause as severe disease as previous variants, the sheer numbers of infections ultimately lead to hospitalizations.
Only 2 counties in Utah don't fall in the very high rate category: Carbon and Rich counties.
It may be that we've had such a widespread disease here that we might be a little bit more protected from this current surge.
That's Braden Bradford, health officer of the Southeast Utah Health Department, the department that covers Carbon, Emery, and Grand counties. He says they were hit hard this fall.
And it's only in the past about 2 weeks that we have seen a huge drop-off in cases.
He worries rural counties tend to see trends weeks after larger counties do. That's why he's advising everyone statewide to mask up, get your shot, and stay home if you're sick.
A lot of these messages we're just so tired of hearing, we need to kind of reinvest in, so to speak, so that on an individual level we're accountable for our actions.
Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, as for schools set to resume the first week of January, districts are listening to the health department for safety protocols. Right now, districts say things remain unchanged. A spokesperson with Granite Schools says if cases do increase, then the district will bring back tests to stay. Meantime, the White House says a contract should be ready late next week to buy 500 million at-home COVID tests. The Departments of Health and Human Services and Defense are also working to speed up distribution. There will be a free system, including a new website to get tests out to Americans. This comes amid a reckoning for President Joe Biden's COVID-19 response, specifically over the lack of available tests and the disruptions to holiday travel.
The combination of cold weather and alternative heating methods may be to blame for a deadly RV fire in Salt Lake City overnight that killed 2 people and a dog. This happened on 200 South, right below the Redwood Road overpass in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City firefighters say the flames spread quickly and that 3 people were inside at the time, but only 1 made it out alive. Crews believe the people inside the RV were using some sort of alternative heating method to try and stay warm, as temperatures last night dropped into the low teens.
Regardless of the status of people's, whether or not they have permanent homes or mobile homes like this, everyone is trying to stay warm this type of year, and sometimes those alternative methods of heating can catch up to them.
Firefighters say the victim's identity and the fire's cause will not be released until the investigation is complete, with cooperation from the medical examiner's office.
Adam, earlier today, Fox 13 spoke with the director of homeless policy and outreach at the Salt Lake City mayor's office. He says this type of fire happens way too often because of how expensive it is to live in Salt Lake City, forcing people to live out of their car or on the street.
A lot of folks are in a difficult predicament of trying to stay warm, particularly during this kind of weather, and using other means that they have access to right now.
The Salt Lake Valley Coalition on Homelessness is trying to open up more emergency beds so people do have a warm place to sleep.
An attorney who spent years stealing millions of dollars from his clients had his belongings auctioned off today. Crews were inside Calvin Curtis's mansion and law office throughout the day, taking his stuff as part of a court-ordered liquidation sale to help pay back dozens of victims. Nearly 200 items were up for auction. Last October, Curtis was ordered to pay back more than $12 million to just one of the victims, an elderly woman with severe Alzheimer's. The money from this sale, unfortunately, doesn't even scratch the surface, although last week his mansion was also sold to a local nonprofit for about $1 million.
What it means to me is we try to solve the headaches that are out there for the attorneys, for the judges, for many of the victims. And if we can raise a small portion or a large portion, that's our job today.
House of Hope is elated to be able to take this beautiful home and bring it back to its original state of giving back to the community and helping those in the community.
Curtis was there inside the house while crews took away his stuff. Last month, he pleaded guilty to fraud charges and is getting ready to spend 73 months in federal prison.
We have a lot more ahead on Fox 13 News at 9. After several days, the jury finally reaches a verdict in the Gelane Maxwell sex abuse trial. What they decided next.
Here on Capitol Hill, the House Speaker plans a summit to save the Great Salt Lake.
And Utahns helping those in need when disaster strikes. How members of one rural community jumped into action after a Greyhound bus crashed on I-70.
Like the weather in LA this week, it's been an up and down season for the Utah Utes, but in the end, it's all been great. We'll hear about the Utes' rise to the Rose Bowl coming up.
Welcome back, everyone. We have some breaking news to tell you about happening right now in Salt Lake City. There is a very large police presence near 12th West and 7th North. No other information has been confirmed at this time, but witnesses in the area say they are also seeing SWAT team members on scene and officers blocking off Lafayette Street. We will keep you updated as we learn more throughout this newscast and always online.
A unanimous jury has found Gelane Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein.
After deliberating for about 40 hours over a span of 6 days, a jury in New York has found Gelane Maxwell guilty of sex trafficking young girls for Jeffrey Epstein between 1994 and 2004.
Prosecutors argued Maxwell and Epstein conspired to set up a scheme to lure young girls into sexual relationships with Epstein. 4 women testified during the trial that Epstein abused them and that Maxwell facilitated the abuse and sometimes even participated in it. Meanwhile, Maxwell's defense said she was a scapegoat for Epstein's actions. Maxwell faces up to 65 years in prison.
President Donald Trump's spokesperson, Taylor Budowich, does not want his bank records handed over to the federal government, but his request has been denied. The House Select Committee wants the records as they continue to investigate the January 6th Capitol riot. The bank, J.P. Morgan, previously said it would comply with a subpoena unless Budowich got a court order blocking it by last Friday. He missed that deadline. Budowich says the subpoena lacks a legitimate legislative purchase and that it violates his constitutional rights.
From the supermarket to the gas pump, ongoing supply chain problems and surging post-COVID demand are driving up prices in 2022. The latest food price index from the United Nations found global food prices are at the highest level in a decade. Experts worry continued disruptions from the pandemic, like labor shortages, high costs for shipping and fertilizer, could make things even worse. The cost of owning a home is also expected to stay high. According to the Federal Housing Finance Agency, average home prices skyrocketed nearly 20% through the third quarter of 2021 compared to just a year ago.
We're social distancing tonight here at Fox 13. Last night on my drive, I was kind of wishing some of those cars on the freeway were doing a little more social distancing.
Yes, absolutely. Tonight, we're seeing quite a bit of snowfall coming down for the Cache Valley. As we look down through Ogden, areas of snowfall coming down. And downtown Salt Lake right now, not a whole lot happening, just cold, 33 degrees here. But our wind is gusting right now, close to 30 miles per hour. So here are your top headlines. We're going to continue with some on and off snow through early Saturday. So through New Year's Eve night. I almost said Christmas Eve night, but through New Year's Eve night. And then by January 1st, very cold temperatures are on the way. Travel impacts are expected tomorrow night. Your best bet if you're planning on traveling before New Year's Eve would be first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to have a frigid weekend, but we'll see clearing, so driving hopefully won't be too bad this weekend. However, before that, I could see some problems with heavy snow on tree limbs and also some down power lines. So just keep your phone charged the next few days, especially come tomorrow night into early Friday. And then tomorrow night, I wouldn't recommend parking underneath any trees that could potentially break a window on your car. Now, satellite and radar is pretty active here across northern Utah. Let's go ahead and get to this good stuff, because this is where we're seeing our snow coming down the north end of the Wasatch Front. We have a more southwesterly flow, so we get a little bit of lake enhancement, helps those snow totals pile up pretty quickly. But right now, areas of snow from Layton through Ogden and Brigham City and up through the Cache Valley. Let's go ahead and zoom in for you to give you a better idea of what's happening, because along I-15, we do have quite a few snowflakes falling right now near North Ogden, and then our roads have been snow covered in Logan for the past few hours, and then we're getting some flurries all the way down towards Kaysville right now. Parley's doesn't look too bad right now. Little Cottonwood Canyon was a tough drive for the second half of the day down from Alta, but overall we're going to see more chances for snow, especially come tomorrow night. Areas of snow across southern Utah from Hurricane up through about south of Bryce Canyon, through Panguitch, down through Orderville. But what you can expect for the next few days, very cold temperatures and heavier snowfall tomorrow night through Friday with a passage of a cold front. So 28 right now for Logan, 33 for Ogden, 33 for Salt Lake, 34 for Twilla. It is cold out there, and it's going to feel even colder with the gusty conditions that we currently have. 42 right now for St. George, but tonight here in Salt Lake, not too bad. Temperatures around 30 degrees. Thanks to all of our cloud cover, snow will be possible also. And then tomorrow is going to be another gusty day, especially after lunchtime tomorrow. So the areas of yellow, almost all of the state will see wind gusts 25 to 35 miles per hour. Areas of red, that's 35 to 45 miles per hour. Again, gustiest conditions will be lunchtime until the evening commute tomorrow, all ahead of that front that moves through. So your overnight temps, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, right around freezing for Provo, Salt Lake, and Ogden. I'm expecting mostly cloudy sky when you first wake up. Then during the second half of the day, temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. We're going to continue with more chances for snowfall into tomorrow afternoon. We're going to continue with that storm through the first part of the weekend, and then middle of next week we have some more storms on the way. So for St. George, in the 40s for Thursday and Friday, much colder this weekend with overnight temps near 15 degrees Saturday night. And for the Wasatch Front, we're close to single digits Saturday night. Chances for rain and snow first part of the afternoon tomorrow, turning to snow. Coming up later in the hour, I'll let you know how much snow you can expect.
Thanks, Allison. Lori Valodebel still not competent to stand trial for the murder of her 2 children, but her case was front and center in the courtroom once again today. We'll show you what happened just one day after her attorney was thrown off the case.
Plus, how former Utah Governor Gary Herbert is remembering the late Nevada Senator Harry Reid after he passed away from a battle with cancer.
An Idaho judge has postponed a hearing for Lori Valodebel after disqualifying her private attorney. Her appointed public defender, Jim Archibald, suggested the hearing be postponed due to recent changes in her representation. Archibald said he wanted to speak to his client about the changes. Judge Stephen Boyce signed an order last night disqualifying her lawyer, Mark Means, that's the man in the tan suit on the left, from representing her due to a conflict of interest. Lori Valodebel is currently at a state mental hospital after being found mentally incompetent to stand trial.
Flags of the state of Utah and American flags are being lowered at all state facilities to half-staff in honor of late Nevada Senator Harry Reid. The former majority leader of the Senate died yesterday. He was 82 years old. He fought a 4-year battle with cancer. Reid did have close ties to Utah. He worked with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, including former Utah Governor Gary Herbert. This afternoon, the former governor spoke with Fox 13's Amy Nay on Fox 13 News Live at noon about his experience working with Reid.
Again, he was a hard negotiator. He gave something, he wanted to get something back. And so a number of issues that came along, we had opportunities to have discussion.
Reid attended Southern Utah University. He graduated from Utah State University. He then joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints while attending school in Utah. Reid served as senator from Nevada from 1987 all the way up until 2017 and as the Senate Majority Leader from 2007 to 2015. Coming up in our next half hour, hear from members of one rural Utah community who helped people badly hurt in this Greyhound bus crash earlier this week.
What the Utah State Legislature plans to do to save the Great Salt Lake.
Plus, we'll take a look back at all of the good, bad, and unforgettable things that made headlines in Utah in the year 2021. Thank you for joining us at 9:30. We are learning more tonight about how a community in Emery County came together to help the passengers of a Greyhound bus that crashed in central Utah late Monday night.
It was a bad accident. Fox 13's Eliana Sheriff spoke with those who gave a helping hand to those who needed it most.
It was probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour between getting a phone call and having food ready. We had pancakes and bacon and eggs ready for them when they got here.
When Chris Payne first got the call to help passengers who had just been in a crash involving a Greyhound bus on I-70, he and his neighbors in Emery didn't hesitate.
Well, that's just kind of the way it is around here, you know, especially in these rural areas especially.
Payne says his wife is an EMT and was already headed to the scene when he got a call from law enforcement about bringing some non-critical passengers to their church to get warm and get fed.
Designated one room, let some of them try to sleep in there. And then one of the bigger areas, some more medical personnel come and evaluated some more of the passengers from the bus, and then they ended up transporting several more after they reevaluated at the church.
In total, 32 of the 37 passengers had to be treated. Bishop Payne says most of the passengers were shaken up after the wild ride, but thankful strangers were there to take care of them.
If somebody needs help, whether they're a member of our church or a stranger, people around here jump at the chance to help.
One of those passengers is Mary Morissette, who was on her way to start trucking school in Salt Lake City. Right now, Mary is in a Provo hospital. Her husband, Will, flew in from Georgia last night.
Her hips got dislocated. Somehow her socket, a piece of bone got chipped off, and her other hip got fractured.
Mary had a 6-hour surgery Wednesday to put plates and screws in her hip. Her family started a GoFundMe to help Mary and her husband, whose lives are now disrupted.
It hurts a lot because now it's just me and I can't be at work right now. So
Will says she won't be able to put weight on her hip for at least 3 months, and then she'll need a walker for another 3 months.
Really grateful because it could have been a whole lot worse.
Eliana Sheriff, Fox 13 News, Utah.
If you are interested in donating to Mary's GoFundMe to help her pay for medical bills and a way to build a ramp for her months of recovery, you can find those details on our website, fox13now.com. The cause of the crash is still under investigation.
New tonight, a 22-year-old man is now facing multiple charges for his role in a deadly car crash near Park City back in September. Investigators say Charles Dwight Castor was involved in a high-speed chase with a stolen car that ended in the death of his passenger, 19-year-old Daisha Reynolds. Prosecutors are charging him with first-degree murder, driving a stolen vehicle, and failing to stop for an officer.
West Valley City Police say they got a wanted fugitive behind bars this morning after a long and dangerous standoff. The man was in a hotel and barricaded himself inside once he realized police were there. Officers say they needed to be extra careful because 2 of his small children were also barricaded inside.
You want to use as much caution as possible to make sure that everybody that is around can be safe.
Police say the man was wanted for burglary, running from police, and trying to run over an officer. They say eventually he let his 2 children go, then he was arrested. So far, his name has not been released.
I want to make it really, really clear that Utah cares about Great Salt Lake.
Well, the Great Salt Lake will be the focus of some major legislation on Utah's Capitol Hill.
The House Speaker is also holding a summit next week to discuss ways to preserve and protect the Great Salt Lake. Fox 13's Ben Winslow has more.
The Great Salt Lake has now dropped 11 feet, and development has diverted nearly 40% of its water supply. A dried-up lake threatens northern Utah's air quality and future snowpack. Because it's a huge contributor to the ecosystem, lawmakers and the governor are promising action. More money is being allocated, and bills are already being introduced on Utah's Capitol Hill.
That's kind of the canary in the coal mine. When we see this year, Great Salt Lake hit record low levels, and we look at the impact that that's going to have on our snowpack, which is our water source.
A big part of Representative Joel Ferry's legislative district is the Great Salt Lake. A farmer in Corinne, he's introducing a bill to try to get more water into the lake.
If a farmer has a water right and he's recognizing that it's going to be a drought year, and you know what, maybe rather than use the entire flow that he is granted or he has a right to use, he can cut that back a little bit, and either conservation group or the state or the federal government, whoever it may be, can then pay him to say, hey, we want, so many acre feet of your water to stay in stream, and it'll work its way down through the rivers and make it to the Great Salt Lake.
Environmental groups say bills like this are good, but they want more done.
Mostly what I'm seeing is a lot of baby steps when what we need right now are huge leaps and bounds if we want to save the Great Salt Lake. Great Salt Lake needs 2 million acre feet of water annually, permanently protected.
Representative Ferry says it's a start.
I believe it's not too late for us to make a difference.
House Speaker Brad Wilson is convening a summit next week to discuss ways to preserve and protect the Great Salt Lake. The Speaker's office says they tried to include everyone, but the event will focus largely on information and policy, not advocacy. Climate scientists and water managers will give presentations. Environmental groups will be in attendance. Meanwhile, Save Our Great Salt Lake is planning a rally ahead of the legislative session next month to hold lawmakers' feet to the fire.
If the lake dries up, this is going to affect everyone who lives in the Wasatch Front. This is going to affect our air quality. This is going to affect millions of migratory birds that rely on the lake. We don't have time to be focusing on baby steps and marketing speak. We need action.
On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
I'm sliding around an empty parking lot. Is that good snow driving practice or reckless driving?
And coming up, areas of snow right now, basically about Layton north up through the Cache Valley. Through Ogden right now, some heavy snowfall. I'll let you know how much you can expect over the next few days coming up.
Have you ever done donuts in a church parking lot? Maybe you've done them for fun. Maybe you've done them trying to learn how to drive in the snow.
But as Fox 13's Brian Champagne shows us, your intentions could be the difference between a warning and a serious ticket.
It's really good practice for them to go out and learn how to control their car when it gets that little out of hand.
'Tis the season where people drive like this. Maybe to brush up on slippery road skills, maybe for fun. So sliding around in an empty parking lot, good practice or trespassing, possibly reckless driving? Until you ask. Christy, who doesn't want her last name used, says her son's anxiety kicked up after a slippery drive through Sardine Canyon.
I had suggested him and his brother go practice driving in the snow.
The 17 and 20-year-old came to this church parking lot in Hiram. Then the law showed up.
They don't believe the police officer even saw them doing any sliding. But they were open and honest with the police officer and cooperative.
And they both left cited for reckless driving.
You can receive a ticket for what's called reckless driving on private property.
And that's basically you're driving your vehicle in a willful and wanton disregard for people's safety or the property.
It was not Logan PD that cited the brothers, but Captain Hooley said there's also a trespassing issue.
As a citizen, we don't have the right to just go and utilize people's parking lots for things such as, doing donuts and those types of things.
Hooley says donuts and e-brake yanks don't create a real-world situation anyway. Johnny Argyle disagrees, making annual slide sessions in his vintage VWs.
More of these people on the freeways that as soon as the snow flies, if they'd have done that in the parking lots, they probably wouldn't have gotten in accidents.
Both agree that looking like training, not thrills, helps.
Certainly officers do have discretion, and for me personally, if I were to come across somebody that's doing donuts versus somebody that is with an adult or they are an adult and they're trying to learn how to control their car in a side skid, I probably would address that differently.
If they pull up and you say, this is an educational thing, I'm helping my kids learn how to drive, the answer I've always gotten, and it's happened 2 or 3 times, the answer I've always gotten has been, be careful.
I don't know how else kids are supposed to learn.
Christy said she hopes to get the Class B misdemeanor reduced.
Reckless driving is a very big deal, and it can cause a lot of damage to me and my son.
Brian Champagne, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead as 2021 draws to a close, Fox 13's Dan Evans takes a look back at some of the biggest stories of the year in our state.
And later in sports, the Cougs, Aggies, and Jazz all in play on the hardwood Wednesday while we draw that much closer to the scent of sweet roses. The Utes now less than 3 days out from their bowl bash against Ohio State. Back in a bit.
We have a breaking news update to a story we brought you earlier in this newscast. Salt Lake City police are negotiating with a man barricaded inside a home near 12th West and 7th North. Police say they got a call at 7:30 tonight when several gunshots were reportedly fired. We're keeping an eye on this. We will keep you updated on this story on air and online as we learn more.
Just like the year of 2020, the year of 2021 will always be associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Listen to this. To date, Utah has lost nearly 3,800 people to the virus.
But there was also plenty of other news in 2021. Here with a look back at some of the good and the bad is Fox 13's Dan Evans.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole!
In January of 2021, Utah started the new year with a new governor. Spencer Cox was sworn in a COVID-friendly outdoor ceremony in Fillmore. In February, Mill Creek Canyon was the scene of northern Utah's most deadly avalanche in modern history.
Hoisting teams in, hoisting victims out.
4 backcountry skiers died in Mill Creek Canyon on February 6th.
It's like a weird bear-dog mix.
Beginning in May, a series of wolverine sightings made news. The predators are so rare and elusive that little is known about their population in Utah. After a mild winter, the spring of 2021 saw little rain.
We anticipate that most water districts will put restrictions on fairly early.
By July, the Great Salt Lake reached its lowest level in recorded history.
It's really impossible to overstate just how serious the situation is.
Scientists and state lawmakers are still grappling with how to preserve the lake and its ecosystem, which has ties to Utah's air quality and industries. Summer rains did fall in southern Utah, leading to flooding in parts of St. George, Cedar City, and Enoch, where a state of emergency was declared on August 2nd, with around 200 homes suffering damage.
Fair amount of water just here at the Public Works, and then over here in the background you've got volunteers filling sandbags.
Me and Brian just got up and got ready, made the bed in the tent.
In September, the nation's attention turned to Utah when 22-year-old Gabby Petito went missing. She and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, were documenting their cross-country adventure when he suddenly returned to Florida without her.
At least 3 times a week, we would FaceTime, call, text frequently. She kept me updated on this whole trip.
Gabby's last social media post was made in Ogden. Her body was later found in Wyoming. Florida authorities say Laundrie took his own life as their investigation intensified.
I know that the people in southern Utah are not bigots, they're not racists.
In November of 2021, one of Utah's oldest institutions got a new name. After much deliberation, state lawmakers came to the conclusion that the term Dixie had too many negative connotations. Dixie State University is now Utah Tech University.
She would not just take off like that. Like, that's not Maddie at all.
In December, security cameras captured 19-year-old Snow College student Maddie Allen leaving her dorm in Ephraim. 5 days later, police captured the man who was holding Maddie against her will, reuniting her with her family. Utah's economy roared in 2021. Only Utah and Idaho have more jobs now than before the pandemic, but there aren't enough workers to fill those jobs. Help wanted signs were everywhere in 2021, but for sale signs on houses, not so much. The demand for housing helped push the average price of a home in the Salt Lake Valley past the $500,000 mark for the first time.
A lot of people probably didn't think Utah State was going to do this.
And finally, 2021 was a great year for Utah college football, with 3 teams earning trips to bowl games. Utah State capped off a stellar season by winning the first ever LA Bowl. BYU narrowly lost the Independence Bowl. And the U of U is set to play in the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, on New Year's Day. In the newsroom, Dan Evans, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Areas of snowfall coming down right now along the northern Wasatch Front and the northern Wasatch Mountains. Right now, snowfall is north of Salt Lake City. It's been coming down steadily for the Cache Valley, down through Ogden and Layton for the last few hours. Starting to see some accumulating snowfall in these areas. So slick roads, some lower visibility, and also gusty winds out ahead of this. So here's what you can expect through the rest of the night. Areas of snowfall here along the Wasatch Front. Salt Lake will have the chance for it, but just because of our southwesterly flow right now, it's going to be more likely for that northern part of the Wasatch Front through the evening. Across southern Utah right now, areas of snow, Kanab, Orderville, up through Panguitch. We do have winter weather advisories for the mountains here across Utah already in effect. And then starting tomorrow night, we'll have winter weather advisories here along the Wasatch Front. Temperature-wise, very cold weekend ahead. Right now, close to 30 to 35 degrees for Ogden, Salt Lake, Lehigh, and Provo. 34 for Twilla right now. Our wind is gusting close to 30 miles per hour here in Salt Lake City, so it's going to feel even colder out there. 42 right now for St. George. Now, tomorrow morning when you wake up, not too bad, really. Temperatures will be close to 30 degrees, and we'll have mostly cloudy sky. But we'll have a better chance for snow to return late in the day tomorrow with a cold front that's going to be passing tomorrow night. So first thing, 7 o'clock in the morning, close to 30 to 31 degrees. Still a few showers possible for snow showers along the highest terrain of northeastern Utah first thing tomorrow morning. But that's more likely across southwestern Utah for Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, we start to see this snow filling in, and we're going to start with a mixture of some rain and snow, potentially a wintry mix to begin tomorrow afternoon before that transitions to snow here along the Wasatch Front. Now, 7 o'clock in the morning, as I discussed, mostly about I-70 into southwestern Utah. St. George could pick up a few flurries out of this. Then by 5 o'clock tomorrow night, this is when we're starting to see that snow really filling in here along our I-15 corridor here across the state. That continues into Friday morning across central Utah through I-70 and along I-15. And by Friday afternoon, we're going to continue with some more widespread snow possible here across the state, clearing out by Saturday, and with the clearing, some very cold temperatures. So for tonight through tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., the areas of light blue that you're seeing, so for much of the valleys here across the state, we're looking at an inch of snow. A few of the valleys on the northern Wasatch Front may end up with a few inches of snow, but then more is going to pile on heading into Friday. And by Saturday at 1 a.m., you're starting to see some shades of purple here across the mountains, and that means we'll be measuring that snow in feet. So through Saturday at 3 a.m., Wasatch Front, mostly 3 to 6 inches of snow, benches 5 to 10, 1 to 2 feet in the mountains. And for southern Utah, we're going to have some very cold temperatures in St. George heading into your Saturday. So Saturday night in St. George, 15 degrees, a high of 36 on Saturday. Here in Salt Lake, 10 degrees on Saturday night, mid-20s for Saturday. We warm back up into next week with some more chances for rain and snow by next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, we are now less than 72 hours out from Pasadena, where Fox 13's Jeff Rainier was today, following the Utes' every move in our countdown to the 107th annual Rose Bowl.
It's been an up and down season for the Utes. We all remember those early season losses to San Diego State and BYU, but then they rallied to win the Pac-12 championship and a spot in the Rose Bowl. Also been a tragic year for the Utes, losing 2 teammates to tragic deaths. But they have rallied, and they're now in the Rose Bowl in what has turned out to be an incredible season.
One of the things that could describe this entire season is the word grit, and then perseverance. Now we're reaping the rewards, it's a long road to get here, but we're here. Rest in peace to Ty and Aaron. I think it defines the character of this team and how much we're a family atmosphere and care about each other, and we'll do anything to make sure we're successful.
It's been a special season for a lot of ways, a lot of reasons, right? But it's the biggest joy you get is just watching the players. I'm so happy for these guys. They've fought so hard and they've gone through so much. I want them to enjoy every minute of this week.
The Utes now hope to cap this season with a win over Ohio State in the Rose Bowl on Saturday. With the Utes in Pasadena, California, Jeff Rainier, Fox 13 Sports Utah.
The conference openers for BYU hoops have both been COVID postponed due to health problems. On the other side, the 18th-ranked Lady Cougars were supposed to begin tomorrow at home against San Diego, while the men were slated to start Saturday at Portland. Mark Pope's squad did wrap up their non-conference slate tonight against in-state Westminster. Credit the D2 Griffins, only trailing by 5 at the half. After the Snows transfer, Braden Johnson puts back at the horn. They're half 2, the Cougs using the triple to open up the lead a bit. Tijon Lucas lines up, followed by Alex Barcelo from the opposite corner. The lead at 2 digits and soon to be 15 here. The sophomore from Provo, Hunter Erickson, steals the inbounds and then finishes with a swinging coast-to-coast flush. Erickson shattering his career high with 10 off the bench, while Gideon George finished 5 of 6 from the backwoods to lead all scorers with 17, 65-53 the final. Utah State got their conference debut in this afternoon over the Mountain. Ugly game at Air Force. Jeff Heidbreeder to lift the Falcons up 7 in the second. The Aggies battle back thanks to the Justin Bean dunk. He was the only USU player in double figures with 18. Still down 1 though, final seconds. Key turnover by Rylan Jones, and then Stephen Ashworth with a tough look at the end. The Ags finishing 1 for 19 from 3 land. Ouch, 49-47. It was the program's lowest scoring game in 7 years. And the Jazz doing a late one in Portland tonight. Start with some Hassan Whiteside on mop-up. Utah already up 10 halfway through the first. Jordan Clarkson then going nothing but nylon to add to it. The Blazers losing 12 of their last 15 games coming in. Damian Lillard shoots them back within 5 before Rudy Gay took off in the second quarter. Baseline Jay to go along with a rebound jam. Gay with 14 at the halfway point on 6 of 7 from the field. The Jazz lead in the third. We'll be right back.
The final Powerball drawing of the year is tonight with a jackpot of $441 million. The winner can take home the cash option of $317 million if you choose. So far, it's been 3 months since someone won the Powerball jackpot. The odds of winning, of course, are small, about 1 in 292 million, but that's not impossible. If there is no winner, the next drawing will be on Saturday, and if you want to get a ticket, of course, you're going to have to drive out of state because Utah does not take part in the lottery.
No, darn. Hope you win if you have a ticket, though.
Drive all the way up to Idaho just to win.
Quick Cast is next.